All right, let's get into it. Today we're breaking down a critical phase of the Battle of Jarama, specifically the period from February 15th to the 27th, 1937. The initial nationalist push had ground to a halt, and what happened next was a brutal shift into a full-blown war of attrition. We're going to focus on the key decisions and the fighting that took place between the 15th and the 17th. Now, for this analysis, all of our intelligence, all the source material, comes from the incredibly detailed project by Colonel F.J. Victor Rodrigo. This just ensures that everything we review is based on solid, meticulous, operational research. Here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll tackle the command crisis on the Republican side. Then, we'll look at the two competing battle plans that were set to unfold on February 16th. After that, we'll dive into the actual combat that resulted. And we'll wrap up by assessing the exhaustion of the forces and the final orders that came down from high command. Okay, first up, the Republican command crisis. By February 15th, the situation for them wasn't just about the enemy in front of them, it was about a massive failure in their own command and control.
So, if you look at the map here, you can see the core of the problem. The Nationalist attack hit right on the boundary line between two different commands, General Poza's Army of the Center and General Miaja's Madrid Defense Forces. This created a complete mess, a dual command situation. Now, technically, Poza's was the senior commander, but Miaja, who had a lot of clout after defending Madrid, flat out refused to release troops. He argued he couldn't weaken his own lines. This friction just paralyzed the Republican response when they needed to act the most. And to see just how bad this got, take a look at this dispatch from Poza's to Miaja. He's practically begging for units, stressing that the situation at Jarama is about to unravel the entire defense of Madrid. And Miaja's response to this urgent plea? He sent just two, artillery pieces. That was it. It was painfully obvious they needed a single, unified command in the sector, and they needed it yesterday. So something had to give, and on February 15th, it did. High Command finally made a decision. They unified the whole sector under General Miaja, probably because of his prestige and his grip on the crucial reserves in Madrid. They also reorganized the entire theater into two new armies and put Lieutenant Colonel Burillo in charge of the forces at Jarama, which were now called the Arganda Group. Okay, so with the command structure finally sorted out, a new plan hits the table. Let's analyze the first of the two clashing plans for February 16th, the Republican counteroffensive put together by the new guy in charge, Burillo.
Here we're looking at Burillo's Operations Order Number 1. The plan was a two-pronged attack. You had Modesto's division in the north, tasked with taking back the high ground at La Marañosa. Then, to the south, you had divisions B and C pushing towards the river. But the real push, the main effort, was going to be Lister's division, hitting towards San Martín de la Vega with armor and artillery support. The whole idea was to hit back, relieve the pressure, and smash up the Nationalist bridgehead.
Now here's where it gets really interesting. Because at the exact same time the Republicans are drawing up their counterattack, the Nationalist command is ordering its own offensive. Let's take a look at what General Varela was planning. On the 16th, Varela gets his orders, and they are simple. Keep attacking. The objective hadn't changed at all. Seize the Arganda and Morata line. The plan was for a massive artillery barrage, followed by all brigades advancing at once. But this directive from the top was completely ignoring a critical reality on the ground.
So just how bad was it for Varela's men? Well, they were absolutely spent, operationally exhausted. Morale was shot, so bad that commanders had to physically go to the line to keep their men from breaking. Varela knew this. He urgently requested 6 fresh battalions. The answer from his superior, General Orgaz? A flat no. His troops were in no condition to launch another major attack.
And this quote right here from Varela's chief of staff to General Orgaz, man, it says it all. He's basically saying, look, my guys are the best in the world, but they have nothing left to give. And the reply from high command is unbending. The overall strategic picture demands you attack anyway. So you see what's happening? Two opposing offensives are about to crash right into each other.
So what happens when two exhausted armies are ordered to attack each other on the same day? You get a meat grinder. Let's look at the actual combat on February 16th and 17th. This is where the battle just becomes pure attrition.
Take a look at the tactical map. On the 16th, the Nationalist attack basically goes nowhere. It's dead on arrival. Only Baruaga's brigade makes any kind of tiny gain. But then on the 17th, Burillo's counterattack kicks off in earnest. And you can see these labels here, fortísimos combates. That means extremely heavy fighting. It erupted all across the front, but especially around this key piece of high ground, El Pingarrón. It was just a brutal contest.
So, let's just boil this down. The 16th, the Nationalist attack sputters and dies from sheer exhaustion. The 17th, the Republican counterattack slams into them, especially hitting that 2nd Brigade. The fighting was just extraordinarily fierce. The result? Massive casualties for both sides, and nobody really gains anything decisive. The Nationalist commander, Baruga, even gets wounded in the fight. This was the absolute peak of the attritional phase.
All right, let's get to the fallout from all this. After 2 days of this hellish fighting, where did things stand? We need to look at the state of the forces and the final orders that came down from the Nationalist High Command.
For the Nationalists, the assessment was, well, it was grim. Many of their battalions were down to 1/3 of their combat strength. Their ability to attack was 0, the reserves were gone, Varela's force had reached its culmination point. And in military terms, that means you're done. You simply cannot conduct further offensive operations.
And yet, despite all of that, on that very same day, February 17th, a new order comes down from Franco's headquarters to General Orgaz. The order? Attack. Attack immediately and achieve all the original objectives of the operation. And to make it happen, they were finally sending support: 6 infantry battalions and 4 artillery batteries.
But there was a huge catch. These reinforcements weren't the hardened veterans Varela was begging for. No, these were new units, green troops pulled from garrisons in Avila, Cáceres, and Plasencia with little to no combat experience. Sending 6 green battalions didn't fix the fundamental problem. Varela's veteran assault force was shattered and had hit its absolute limit.
And that leaves us with a big question, the one we really need to think about. Given that the troops on the ground were spent and the reinforcements were totally inadequate, was this final order to attack a realistic tactical plan? Or was it about something else? Was this a moral objective, an order designed to show an unbreakable will to win, no matter what the cost was on the ground? That's the central question to take away from this phase of the battle.